This is Stephen Farrell with the New York Times in Baghdad and with my colleague Anthony Shadid. Anthony, it's been 100 days since the Iraqi parliamentary elections. It could be another 100 for all we know before we actually see a government formed. Why?
You know, as you put it, Steve, we may very well be waiting another 100 days until we see a government formed. I think everyone expected these negotiations to be difficult after the March 7th election, a milestone by all accounts, but I'm not sure anyone predicted that they would be quite as difficult as they've proven to be. The crux of the matter still is who is going to be prime minister. The other positions within the cabinet, the ministers, even the deputies to the prime minister, the presidency, those are probably easier positions to resolve than the prime minister itself. And the reason those negotiations have been as slow as they've been is because no one's quite given up their claim to be prime minister. We have the same candidates that we basically had on March 7th, and that is the prime minister, Nouri al-Maliki. We also have Ayad Alawi, considered the secular candidate in some ways, who performed the best in the elections. And there's also the possibility out there that we may see a compromise candidate, so-called compromise candidate, from the rival Shiite bloc to Maliki.
Isn't there a danger that people are just going to say a plague on all their houses? I mean, just make a decision, just do something in the interest of the country rather than your own interest as an individual or as a party?
You know, I think that's right, Steve. I think you see an incredible amount of discontent and disenchantment out there in the streets about this political process, about the negotiations. There's frustration. People are angry. They're expecting a lot more progress and they expected it sooner. And we're not seeing anger quite directed at one politician or the other. We're seeing, I think, an indictment of the entire political class in some respects. People are just frustrated with the political process as it is. You often hear this reference to interest. You hear this reference to people protecting their thrones of power, their chairs. I think there's a sense of opportunism out there among the political class that these negotiations aren't helping to dispel.
Right. We have heard for some weeks now that the stasis, the political stasis, the vacuum, if you like, over there in the green zone behind us, could lead to instability. Are we past that point now where it is actually already causing instability, violence?
I think that's a great way to put it, Stephen. I think you are, in fact, seeing instability already. You're seeing protests in large cities like Basra and Nasiriyah in the south over a lack of electricity. You're seeing the discontent that we've talked about in the streets in Baghdad. Utter gridlock. We're seeing attacks, sometimes spectacular attacks on the central bank in Baghdad. I think it's if you came into Baghdad or came into Iraq, having not been here in previous weeks, you could feel that we've entered a period of time that feels very different, feels very precarious, and I think most of all feels very unpredictable.